Wednesday edition of SEC
Wednesday.
Sidelines Sports Network and SECU. Rob Browne broadcasting here from Memphis and the surrounding world. We got Brenden Martin, executive producer down in Ocala, navigating through technical issues that just seem to be out there every day. It's
Nothing
live
keeps us
podcasting, live
down.
radio. Yeah,
Nothing will keep us down. Nothing
will keep us down. That's right. It just inspires us more. Hey, we're going to start off batting in the leadoff position. Chris Moore, coming back for his fifth year at Auburn as a basketball player, came out as one of the top 2 or 3 players in the state of Arkansas out of West Memphis as a senior. And now he's coming back. Auburn will have definitely the most veteran team, I would think, in the country. We're going to get his perspective on staying with the same school and NIL and just what it's like being a college athlete in today's world. Doug Dean will check in about 10 after from Birmingham. Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net. Vince Ferrara, the sports animal in Knoxville. Smash the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Hit notifications. Allow notifications on your Android and iPhone. Got a great show for the next hour. Get pen and paper handy. It's going to be a great one. We'll be right back.
Let's go.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here, joined by Chris Moore. Chris, I'm going to tell you what, growing up, I live in Memphis. I'm over in Parkin right now at the Cherry Farm, our hunting club, which is about 30 minutes from Front Street. I ran into your brother. I mean, what are the odds? I've got on an Auburn visor at Cracker Barrel Sunday, and he goes, War Eagle. And he had a coach-like shirt on. I said, you a coach? And I said, do you know Chris Moore? And he goes, that's my brother. And I was like, wow. You have to understand how much, hey, I love you because you've stayed at the same school. And I know you've had some injuries and you've had some things happen. But you are what we love about college athletics. And I know the portal's there and NIL's there and everything like that. But my son just graduated 2 years ago from Auburn. I did, my father. I just love to see people persevere and fight through adversity. And I asked your brother about the injuries in Andrews Orthopedic, because we have Dr. Andrews on here sometimes, and Benton Emblem up at St. Vincent's and Mountain Brook at the hospital. You're a kinesiology major. And I said, you have stuck it out through some really tough injuries. And you came out as one of the top 2 players in Arkansas with Isaiah Williams your senior year. And it's a free country. You can transfer wherever you want, but you've stuck it out. I hope you understand how much that means to people of a school because that's what it took me 6 years to get out of college. I was redshirted twice. How you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm good, man. How you?
Good. I'm just fired up having you on here. And I know you got a couple of weeks off, but let's talk about your journey, what it's like playing for Bruce Pearl, SEC basketball, and just the grind of being a kinesiology major, which is going to be a lot of difficult courses and all. But you know what? Injuries aside and everything, here you are coming back for your 5th year, and you got a couple of rings already. That's pretty impressive.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What is the toughest part about being a student athlete in today's world with social media and all that stuff that comes out?
Definitely, man. Just staying focused, man. It's just it's a lot of distractions out there. It's a lot of ways to where I feel like you can choose a different path, and the path won't lead to the right things you need to be focused on. So it's really just the focusing aspect of it all.
You're coming back for your 5th year. Have you already completed your degree, or I know you've had some injuries, you've had a lot of rehab and all, but how close are you to getting that?
Well, fingers crossed. We're gonna be graduating in August, so I got a couple classes I got to pass this summer, and then we'll be done with it.
So then you'll be working on a master's for your 5th year. It's just
yes,
wow.
sir.
Let's talk about it. You know, I talked to your brother Alvin Hawkins, who has a great accounting service there in West Memphis, and it was really cool how, you know, when a family member goes to a school, wherever that school is, the whole family goes with them. It's not that's how it works. I always noticed as a kid growing up, after a football, basketball, baseball, whatever game at Auburn, when the athletes come out, it's not just mom and dad, grandparents, aunts and uncles. It's high school coaches, friends, teammates, pastors. You got a lot of people in West Memphis. Obviously, this is right in Razorback country, but you got a lot of people. I know them, and they're going, man, we love that kid. He's a West Memphis guy. And that it doesn't matter where you go, they're always going to be pulling for you. Is that part of what goes into your mind of, I got to do this, man. I can't quit. I got to find excuses to win. Plus, playing for a guy like Bruce Pearl, that's got to be fun.
Oh, well, yeah, most definitely. I mean, yeah, man. I mean, coming from where I came from, man, it was always hard to, you know, just make it out in general. And, you know, me making it out, the city was not reason that I was able to was successful. It was also my parents and, you know, to help people around here, man. Everybody just kept my head on straight and made sure I was good. I made a lot of resources here in West Memphis and people that's always going to be able to help me for the rest of my life. So I've always made sure West Memphis was a part of my my motivation moving forward.
Yeah. What, you know, kinesiology, and that's working with exercise science and sports injuries. You're going to want to get into that. And, you know, you may play professionally. I mean, that's got to be a goal because, you know, look at the guys, Jalen Williams and you, and Chad Baker-Mazzara, Janai Broome, Chaney Johnson. We got some veterans. This is unusual. Did y'all get together and talk about this when it came time to make your decision of, hey, man, it didn't work out right. That's life. That loss to Yale, it hurt nobody more than the team itself, you know, but y'all are tough, you know, and you've lost games before. What was was that kind of a spark that said, okay, let's come back and take the whole thing next year. We can do it. No doubt.
Definitely, man. We know that we didn't play our best basketball. We didn't play the brand of basketball we wanted to that game. We came up short, and you know, we the things that we could have done at the end of the season that probably could have made the outcome differently. But at the same time, though, we know we didn't do those things, and you know, the only thing you can do is just learn from your mistakes. Learn from your mistakes, and that's what this team is doing.
Yeah, and day in and day out, you're not just practicing in the fall. It's year round. So you got a couple of weeks off, which I totally agree is good. I've got my middle son that graduated from Auburn 2 years ago. I mean, he's working these 90-hour weeks, and I'm like going, hey, that's great. Just take things in moderation, like a little time. But he's in banking and mergers and acquisition business. But sports teach you the lessons of life. I bet if you asked your parents if they remember Coach Eddie Robinson at Grambling. I used to watch his show. He used to have a saying, football teaches the lessons of life. You get knocked down, you get back up. You keep getting back up, but when you refuse to get back up, you're finished. So you carry that in everything you do. You are part of a tradition down there. I mean, I was there, Sonny Smith was there, and we had a guy named Charles Barkley there. That was one of the funniest human beings I've ever been around. And after 3 years, Sonny Smith had to say, you've got to turn pro. You know, now some of these guys stick around for a year and you don't really know them. You are kind of old school. And I mean that as a compliment, because if I'm an employer or I'm somebody that wants to go to someone who can help me rehab from an injury, I'm going to seek out Chris Moore. Because I'm going to say, hold on a second. You played 5 years at Auburn. Sometimes you started 26 games last year. You did whatever it takes to make the team better. Yeah. and you never complained. You were always there early for practice, positive attitude. You're like, whatever I need to do, coach. Yeah, let's do business. That's what I see out in the real world. I say it's all the real world, but I've worked with guys that played at Alabama and different places. They were never past the scout team. Ben Troop is on this show a lot, was an All-American at Florida and played 5 years in the NFL. He said, when I go back to Florida, I see those guys on the scout team. Now you're a starter, and then, you've been a starter, then you weren't a starter, but every time your number's called, how you fight is how you live, isn't it?
Yes, sir. All work, dedication, and leadership.
Yeah. All right. So as the season went along this past year, y'all got that SEC championship against Florida in the tournament. What do you say to people that kind of say, well, the conference tournament doesn't matter? Because I think it does. But you're a player, and it's a grind at that point in the season, and then you're thinking about March Madness. But I want your perspective on that.
I mean, it's most definitely the SEC tournament, being in one of the the top conferences in the world. The country. It definitely matters, because some of those teams that you playing some of those teams that's definitely some of the best teams in the country. Like Tennessee last year was one of the best teams in the country. Kentucky last year was one of the best teams in the country. We had a lot of teams in the SEC that was the best team in the country. So that tournament is very important. No matter who we play, and we played against a great Florida team, played against a great South Carolina team, and like I said, man, those gritty grind games. Also the Mississippi State team, like those are gritty grind games, and those kind of games really help you in you playing against different teams that you got to match up differently, and the preparation has to change, your mindset has to change, and we all stay focused, we all stay true, so it definitely matters.
And I noticed, like you look last year, you played Mississippi State in that tournament too, and Chris Jans has those guys ready. You're seeing when your Auburn team goes on the road, the number of fans that show up. Can't get a ticket there at the Neville, and like my son would say, he said, "Dad, I want to go to the game, but I can't afford to spend the night in a tent. I've got a analytics test tomorrow or something." That's never been like that. Isn't it cool to be part of something? And it's because you work so damn hard at what you do, and people respect that because they go, you know what? That's an example of what they can do. Do you ever realize when you're talking to people, and you remember it was before you got there, a tornado hit there in the Auburn area over in Beauregard, and the school was shut down for like a week. And when the kids came back, Coach Bruce Pearl had the whole Auburn basketball team out there to meet the kids as they got out of their cars at the elementary school and kindergarten in the parking lot. What all does Bruce Pearl talk to y'all about besides basketball? Because he likes to talk, but man, he makes a lot of positive points when he talks. He gets pretty excited. It's kind of like he's drinking coffee all the time.
You would think so every time you're around him, but man, he preaches us. One thing I can say about BP, one of the main things he preaches to us is about doing things that God will bless.
Yeah,
and you said like breeding those kids those years back when I didn't even know about the tornado thing. That's a little tragic, but breeding the kids that came up back then. That's something that God will bless. Like going out doing things in the community. That's something that God will bless, and that's something he really preaches to us each and every day. Like, do things that God will bless.
And it really is, and you can tell. When I remember being with some Tennessee friends before he took the Auburn job, 4 months before he took the job, and I said, "Hey, tell him if he's wanting to get back into coaching, we'd sure love to have him at Auburn." And he lived on the other side of the fence from them up in Knoxville. 4 months later, I'm like, "Yeah, like I had anything to do with it," but it was just funny. And at his first press conference, Bruce Pearl said, "I know a lot of coaches will tell you when they take a job that when I get my players in here, we're going to accomplish a lot of really great things." He goes, "I'm not going to say that." He goes, "These are my players, and I'm going to embrace them. Y'all are my guys." And I look at guys like you and Jalen Williams. Jalen just grind and grind and grind. you talk about the friendships that you have, how close you are with these people. I don't know if anybody in your family has served in combat in the military, but it's sort of that's on another level. But it's the hard work, you know. How many times have you questioned, or have you ever, like, why am I doing this? Because the one thing I've noticed is the great ones like you it's like, well, I don't allow negative thoughts in my mind. Is that where you are?
Most definitely, man. It really just comes down to my parents, and my support system that's behind me. Like,
Yeah.
even when times get tough, man, they always in my ear telling me, hey, like, you're good. Like, we got you. Like, that you can always work through this. You never let anything hold you down before, so don't start now. So I've always just listened to them, soak that all in, and just applied it to my life.
Yeah. And the other thing is, you got guys that are getting into the portal and they think it's better over here. Isn't it true? I think it is. The same problems you have at this school, you're going to have anywhere you go. Why not just hunker down, tie another knot in the rope, and just pull yourself out? And that's what you're doing. I mean, you've had some injuries that a lot of people would have said. Talk about your injuries, what you've had to overcome, because people don't realize the magnitude of knee injuries and hamstrings and quads and Achilles tendons and all. That's serious stuff.
Yeah, I mean, my first major injury, I remember I had to get surgery on my shin. I had a stress reaction, which is something worse than a stress fracture. I hear it's a stress reaction because it kind of never goes away. You kind of just either sit out for a long period of time or go ahead and get it done. So then I also had an injury with my thumb my freshman year. I remember that I had a bad injury in my thumb. My thumb was I think I overstretched it or whatever. And then I had my biggest injury was my shoulder, my right shoulder being hurt. A piece of my labrum was torn, and man, that was probably one of my toughest ever. I was able to come out to and prosper through it. So
yeah. All right, now you look ahead into this 24-25 season coming up. In the portal, in the world we're living in, since the portal became the law of the land back October of 2018, you see a lot of Kentucky. They'll have a lot of 5 stars, 18-year-old kids out there. Then they're playing against 22, 23, 24-year-olds. I mean, I know this is a Captain Obvious question, but maybe that's why Calipari left and said, I'm going to try something different at Arkansas. But the advantage of having – let's talk about your teammates and a little about Janai Browne and Chad Baker Mazar, all of them, everybody, because and we're going to miss Leor Berman, man. A guy can play a hell of a guitar. If you saw him play, wow.
Yeah, he's real good. No, he's real good. Like, and then I think that was a guitar that he made himself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Holy cow. Yeah. But let's talk about your teammates. Chad Baker Mazar coming back again. He's from like the Dominican Republic. And look, we've all played team sports, man. I mean, I still can remember things from my childhood, but I know Doug Dean is on here from Birmingham, wants to talk to you. But you're exactly what we love about college athletics, Chris, because you've hung in there. You're going to get your degree in August, and then you're going to be working on a master's and still being a student athlete. And it's not an easy task. Doug, glad to have you with us. At Birmingham, traffic is horrible, Chris. You think Memphis traffic's bad? Birmingham's a lot worse because it's got mountains. But anyway, Doug, jump in here with us.
Hey, Chris, my goodness, Doug Dean in Birmingham is a huge Auburn guy. So I'm going to be very Homer. I'll be a Homer with Chris on the show. We absolutely love what you bring to Auburn basketball, man. It's blue collar, which I mean is a great compliment. And I hope, Rob, if you already asked this, let me know. I was battling more, win hump day traffic. But let's go inside that game. I think it was Mississippi State. If you were 5 for 5, was that the game in the SEC tournament? And what was happening? Did you feel differently? Did Coach Pearl or the coaches tell you to be ready to take more shots, or what was going on that you got so red hot in the SEC tournament?
It was a combination of both. Well, a combination of a lot of things. It was my coaches, Bruce Pearl, was one of the main voices in my ear. Then I had a lot of my teammates in my ear telling me like I need to be more aggressive, and my family as well. Like I had a lot of people in my ear telling me I need to be more aggressive. I mean, before it's what our team needed, and when I did it, you saw the success that we had, and like I said, man, it was just something that everybody put in me, and I was glad I was able to show y'all what I was able to do.
Well, and here you come back for more, right? You excited for this coming season?
Oh man, I'm so excited, man. It's gonna be like another groundbreaking historic season that that we got planned and that we got coming up for this fall. So
hey, Chris, I want you to, and I really, believe me, I will not enjoy it going back to the memory of that Yale game in March Madness. That's why they call it madness, right? And
yes,
some
sir.
fans just don't understand. They look at the seeding and they don't realize that almost any team that gets in the tourney has got players, and they're dangerous, and they can play more relaxed. But I want you to educate our fans, educate Rob and I on when that call was made, which I was irate about. I'm sure Bruce and the staff were to give a flagrant and ejection of Chad Baker-Mazara. It's not just that you're 5 minutes in, you're without his great talent on both ends of the court, but educate us on the disruption with personnel groupings and plays that they want to run, how catastrophic that was. Help us understand that, if you would.
I mean, it's tough when you lose a player of Chad's caliber. Somebody who was a high usage player in our system, and was also playing great basketball during that time as well. So I mean, it was really tough, man. I mean, you prepare with the guy, you prepare with with having Chad and having a whole team the whole week, and then all of a sudden he's thrown out of the game, and your whole game plan changes. Some players got to play more minutes, step into a different role, and it's a lot of things that taken into account that that you kind of gotta think on the fly. And sadly that I ain't gonna say we failed, but we probably didn't get it as quick as we needed to. And like I said, the outcome was the outcome. So
yeah, and I can see where if you play in the SEC all year. Rob and I have talked a lot about the different refereeing styles. I'm sure you're going to be limited how much you can say about referees, so I won't press you to do that. But
you love them all.
You can make.
I love every single one of them. Every single one of them.
But Chris, I can say things about the officials, and when you go all year long in the SEC and they allow a degree of really physical play, and that becomes the brand of Auburn basketball with Janai and you and Dylan inside and banging around, and all of a sudden you get in the tournament and it's these ticky-tack fouls. If you touch, it's a foul. If you have an unfortunate situation like Chad, it's not just a flagrant foul and shoot foul shots and keep playing. I think the referees did not know the moment there, and that even though technically maybe they were right, they should have found a way to not eject an important player on either team that early in the game. And you don't have to comment, Chris. Have you seen the film of some of the transfer portal guys that are coming in? Are you excited about these guys?
Oh yeah, most definitely, man. All the guys that we got coming in, is ready to make an impact, man. They so eager. Like I think JP just got here a couple of. I'm not on campus. I'm back home with family, but I think JP just got on campus a couple of days ago. Jaheim, I think he's finally on campus, and I'm pretty sure the freshman is going to be here pretty soon, or if not already there. Man, we got a group that's ready to work, that's hungry, that's eager, man. Like I've been this is my 5th year going into this thing, and I've never seen a group that's more hungry. That feels like we got so much to prove, and like I said, we're ready to get to work now, because we know that we got a big season ahead of us.
Do you get the feeling? I loved it all season, and some people were critical of Bruce almost always playing 9 or 10 deep. Do you expect the coaching staff to run that same depth personnel philosophy, or will they go to slightly fewer guys most games?
Oh, the philosophy never changes, man, because that's our brand of basketball. You got we always preach our 10 and 11 versus everybody 7 or 8, 9. So like I said, like that's never gonna change. And then I feel like it's something that that's really helped Auburn in recent years of being successful. That's why we've been so successful, one of the top teams in the country every year, because I'm pretty sure it wouldn't change.
Well, I've been hogging this, Rob. I couldn't wait.
No, I want you. That's good stuff.
Well, I promise you, Chris, I will. It's getting dadgum hard to get a ticket in the Neville, right? But I will dig deep in my wallet and make at least 3 or 4 home games. Can't wait to see you guys, Chris.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you,
Chris. I want to ask you something along the line of what Doug just said. I notice in a lot of games, a player is supposed to be coming in, or player's supposed to be coming out, whatever. And you'll have a guy, sometimes you don't see this a lot on Bruce Pearl's Auburn teams will say, hey man, he's on a roll, let him stay. That's a culture. That's a buzzword that's used a lot. But culture to me is everybody is treated exactly the same. There's no favoritism, no politics. It's everybody works their ass off, and they all know that in a moment's notice, next man up. Let's talk about that.
Man, this relationships, man. This is I can honestly say, like, of all the teams that I've been a part, like this is one of the most brothership bonded teams that I've ever been on, man. And it's written. You see it with us every day. Like you will see, like we don't have like cliques or groups or nothing like that. It's Auburn men's basketball team. It's not Chris Moore and Chad Baker and Denver Jones and Janai Browne. It's Chris Moore, Chad Baker, Denver Jones, and Janai Browne all together. And I feel like that speaks volumes to not only what you see off the court, but what you see on the court as well, man. Like we always hype for each other, always praising one another because we know how much work we put in. And man, when it's time to reap the benefits of the work we put in, we all just be excited for each other like a brother would. So
I love it. I mean, and that part of it, look, we just got a couple of more minutes. And Doug, I know, ask away. I just want to say, Chris, this is refreshing to hear. Because I've followed you just because you're local from where I live. But I go down to Auburn a lot. But you watch the games, having a team that actually cares about each other is just fun. It's even more fun to watch. You're not gonna win every game, but the way you approach life, I love it. Doug, jump back in.
Hey, Chris, and people may have different idea of who all should you include when we talk about Auburn's front court. Obviously, Janai. Obviously, you. Dylan Carter, so thrilled that Dylan's coming back for more. It's amazing. I think our opponents are not very thrilled about the 3 of y'all coming back.
No.
And then, but you can add, in some situations you can throw Chaney Johnson in. He's not the center, but I'll make a case. If Auburn does not have the best and most deepest and most experienced front court in the SEC, please tell me who would be superior to Auburn. I think y'all are the best.
Honestly, man, I've been confident in the group. I've been confident in Auburn for years. So I feel like every year in and year out, we have the best front court and back court. I mean, it's just really on everybody else to come out their shell, man. But I honestly I don't see nobody competing with Auburn next year. Like it's the only people that can beat Auburn is Auburn. I honestly feel like I feel that way every night that we suit up, and BP feels that way, and the players feel that way as well. So,
I try to be kind. I love all God's children. That's our calling, Chris. But without naming names, when the Crimson Tide comes to the Neville, I hope y'all plan to defend their guards like your life depended on it. If you know what I mean.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is it possible to wish Aiden Holloway well in all but 2 or 3 games? I guess that's where I stand.
Yeah, that's it. That's all, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. And then you've got friends at Arkansas, and you were recruited by Penny Hardaway at Memphis. And you made your choice. One more question for you. For fans, and we have fans of all these SEC schools and other schools that watch our show every day. give them like the mindset. You know, people have always transferred from the beginning of time. Now it's just easier, but it's more visible because of social media and stuff like that. Are the guys that are leaving typically guys that like, hey, they've got some issues, they're going to have them wherever they go, and you, in your case, you've got great parents and family and all. But talk about your decision. Was that an easy decision to say, hey, I'm coming back for a fifth year? I predicted you would for something, because I just have watched your career, and you're reinforcing why we love college athletics.
It was a no-brainer for me, man. I mean, honestly, I can't see no better place than Auburn. It's still the best decision. Like every summer coming back is always the best decision I ever made. It's still the best decision I ever made to this day to go to Auburn, man. It's like I said, I barely miss home, and that's something hard to say, because I love home. I love being around my family. I love being around the people that raised me and helped me groom to a man you see upon you today. But man, Auburn is a special place, man. I would tell everybody that before they even consider. I said, man, just come on campus for a couple of days, and you can experience it, man. Like you don't have to stay here. Just come on campus and just visit for a couple of days. You will, like I said, it's a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer for me to come back, man. I couldn't see myself in no better place than Auburn.
Yeah.
To your point, we won't keep you, Chris. It's been such an honor to talk to you, my friend. I talked to a off the field football coach. The same would apply in any sport, and basketball, whatever, even the ladies' sports. And when Brian Harsin showed up, and I won't make this about trashing a former coach. Hope he goes on to good things. He just was not a good fit. But he kept asking people, what does Auburn sell? What specific are you putting people in the NFL, the NBA? What are you selling? And this off-the-field coach kept trying to help him understand, we don't sell anything like that. Auburn sells itself. All you have to do was, not every recruit, Auburn may not be for every athlete, but if you get these recruits on campus and let them experience and feel it, we will get our share of great athletes. You agree with that?
I most definitely agree, man. Like Auburn welcomes people that's here and that's not from here, man. Like I've had like family members. Like I had one of my cousins come down to Auburn one time. They thought he was on the basketball team, and they was just greeting him like, hey, like, what's your name, man? Like, like, it's genuine. Like the Auburn people are genuine. You don't find that everywhere. You don't find that at every university. And like I said, it's a special place, man, and it holds a special place in your heart, and it has for since I made my decision. So,
well, it's so real that Bruce Pearl and you guys, in a span of a few years, Auburn. The joke was that Auburn Arena and maybe Beard Eves back in that day was built on an Indian burial ground. We just couldn't win, and now there's Pearl City. These expeditions outside Neville Arena 2 nights before you play with it 28 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, it's a wild thing to see. I love all our fans. I don't know if I would be able to do that if I was a fan, but I love all our fans and I appreciate them. And like every time I see somebody that I remember from Pearlville, I always tell them, like, hey, I appreciate you for doing that, man. It was really makes me feel really good. It means that much. You want to watch us play, so.
Well, it's a mutual deal. Chris, look, I know you got a lot of stuff to do, but man, thank you so much for coming on here with us. Need to be hearing more from student athletes themselves, because all these other people's opinions or whatever they are, but when we talk to the people themselves, you restore our faith. So look, thank you. Look forward to meeting you in person, and look forward to a great year. And you got a whole life ahead of you as a kinesiology major. You're going to get your degree in August, and that's number one. So you got a great family. So we'll talk to you soon.
War down, Chris.
Thank y'all, and war down, y'all.
All right, war down. Thank you. All right, Doug, I tell you, and Dudley Dawson's supposed to be on here with us, hogville.net. We've got some technical issues today on Cox Communications down in Ocala. They are notoriously struggle. But Brenden hopefully is still there in the studio. But how you fight is how you live. And also, let me say, Clay's Smoked Tuna is today going to be located at 6811 Trevure Parkway, Hilton Home 2 Suites in Germantown, right next to First Bank. Clay's smoked tuna, smoked salmon, smoked chicken salad, and everything. Great food. Check them out. You will love it. But Doug, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and I can't believe I'm saying it, Chris Moore got me so fired up about this Auburn basketball season. I'm telling you, psychologically, Bruce Pearl has them all right where he wants them, because all the talk is about the Fighting Oaks at Alabama, and they got a very good team. Alabama's going to probably threaten again. There are a few others. You got to wonder about Arkansas with Calipari showing up and war chest to load that roster. But can we just skip football season and go straight to some basketball, or play them simultaneously? I'm obviously really excited about release 2.0 of Hugh Freeze football at Auburn. I think it's going to be fun. I think they will show great improvement. We'll have to see what that means in terms of a ceiling. I like 9 wins, but people tell me I need to get my head examined. But I will be looking forward to another great SEC basketball team season with, I might add, these Sooners and Longhorns added to the mix.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Hey, Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net's in here with us right now. And Dudley, we just were talking with Chris Moore, and I don't know, we're having some technical issues down on our producer's end, so sorry about it. Took you a while to get in Ocala. But Chris Moore, and it reminded me, he's coming back for a 5th year at Auburn. But, I call him old school. But guys that just, it's beyond the games. It's they love the school and all like that. We love hearing that. And there's still people like that out there. You have got a great career going. Hopefully you're not retiring anytime soon. But I ran into Chris's brother at the Cracker Barrel in West Memphis Sunday night. It was like great. But there's a lot happening in the college athletics world. But let's hear the good stuff that's happening over at Arkansas. And then we're going to kind of morph that into the rest of the SEC. But people love and need to hear good stuff. And we had Buddy Martin's show last night. I was on there. He started the new Sunshine Pumpers thing. Just find some good stories out there. So it's Memorial Day, the lead up to Memorial Day on Monday. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing good. Except for technology, if I ever retire, it's probably going to be the main reason. As we get further down this AI line and all that. But what I will tell you is that one of the positive things going on up here is a program-wide, and all 19 sports have been great in academics, and all the coaches are pointing to that. You still have to win to keep your job and all that, but that's one of the happy things, the positive things that I think you can bring out. Coach Van Horn was recently at his press conference, and he was excited about winning the SEC West for the 5th time in 6 years. But he seemed as excited, whether he was or not, he seemed as excited about them posting a over 3-point team grade point average.
Wow. The baseball team. That's tough. That's impressive. And here it is. Hoover's going on right now. Arkansas every year in baseball, and until this past year, basketball was really strong. But Hoover, it matters what you do over there. And yesterday was single elimination. Okay, so but it matters what you do. Talk about the mindset of this Arkansas team from your vantage point compared to the previous 5 or 6 teams.
Well, I think this team is still going to be a top 8 national seed, regardless of how it fares against South Carolina today. And if they have to play an elimination game in the morning, even if they lost that, I think they'd still be a top 8 seed from all the projections. But I do think this is a tournament that Coach Van Horn mentioned the other day. People think he doesn't, that it's not important to him. He doesn't want to win it, but that's not the case. He would like to win it, but you have to win it the right way. And that's the same thing, I think, with a lot of these teams. You can't smoke your pitching. You can't smoke your team, get them so tired that you're not ready to go next week. That's the big thing. You got to make sure all your pitchers are tuned up and ready to go. That's one of the toughest things, I think, as you come down the stretch here, whether it be, the last few series or, being in the tournament, you got to make sure that you don't send a guy out there and get hurt. You don't send him out there, get him overworked. But at the same time, you got to make sure he's still tuned up. And that's one of the things about Arkansas. Both Brady Tigard and Mason Molina, who have been serviceable and solid starters this year, both came down the stretch. Both, I think, showing some wear and also showing some control issues. And they've been trying to work on that, put a couple other guys in the starting rotation last weekend. I'm anxious to see what they do down there this weekend in terms of what they're going to do as far as using their pitchers just to try to win the tournament, but also to make sure that the big goal is winning it all.
Yeah, but Hoover matters. The SEC basketball tournament matters. I agree, and this is a really good Arkansas team, aren't they all? I mean, it's just Dave Van Horn every year he's got one of the best programs in America, and they get that national championship. It's going to put them on another level, and they're getting one of these years. They're going to get it. Vince Ferrara, the sports animal up in Knoxville, checking in with us. Been talking about SEC baseball tournament going on in Hoover. The base Vols going over there. It matters what they do. What's the mindset of this Tennessee team? Tony Vitello, hell of a coach. Everybody remembers 2 years ago, they were on top of the world, lost at home to Notre Dame. This team, compare it to the previous 5 Tony Vitello baseball Vols. Yeah, I mean, I would think, Vince, is this Tennessee team the best in the last 5 years? Where do they rank?
Wow, they're very different, guys, than they were 2 years ago when they had that record-setting year. And the difference is this year they've gotten there in winning series 2-1 as opposed to a lot of sweeps. So it's a very different way to get to the finish line, also as regular season champs. I mean, that one just had the numbers were so dominant. They had first-round draft picks, had a number of guys that are now already in the major leagues. So they're a different team than they were a couple of years ago. But this one might have the best potential to have postseason success. And we had Redmond Walsh, who was one of the tied for the all-time saves leader at the University of Tennessee with Todd Helton. And he was on our show this morning, and he said that, hey, they have, even better culture and resiliency on this year's team because they're more battle tested. So who's better doesn't matter. What matters is who cashes in. And that's what Tennessee is looking for after a couple of trips to the College World Series where they have not been able to have the success that fans are looking for.
Yeah. Doug Dean, you're there in Birmingham. We're talking about Hoover. Some people say, oh, it doesn't matter what you do over there. It's the tournament that matters next week. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I think great question. Good morning, guys. I think you've seen both scenarios as far as how predictive that may be. But I think if you talk to the players and coaches, the notion of, hey, let's just get knocked out early and rest up, I don't think any of them would want to do that. I think you want to get hot and stay hot. And in baseball, unlike football, yes, there's fatigue, especially with pitchers. But those last, going into this weekend, the teams that are surviving will have to watch the pitch count. They always do. I think I would rather get hot and stay hot. I'd be curious if your other two guests feel similarly.
Dudley, along that line, the bats, look what happened to the Braves last year when they had to sit for 6 or 7 days and the Phillies kept playing. Didn't work out well for the Braves. And I think it's similar in college.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with Arkansas. This has been a pitcher-oriented team for the most part this year. Toward the end, as I mentioned, the pitching, slacked up a little bit there in the second, third starters. The offense started to come alive a little bit. I think they still need to have, better percentage with runners in scoring position. They've always thought that the offense was going to click at the end. Well, it's getting near the end. It's time for, they're hoping Kendall Diggs, who was a big part of their team last year, who has battled injuries this year, has not, been on the fastball as much as he was last year. They're hoping they can get him going. If they get him going, they feel like that the rest of the lineup can score them enough runs with their pitching to get them. As Doug was saying, you got a situation where +1 is all you need. You gotta have one more run than the other team each game, and they've done that in great fashion this year. That's why they were ranked #1 and in the top 5 for obviously most of the season. As you said, you want to be clicking on all cylinders when you go in there, and I think that may be the biggest point of this weekend. Can those bats get going, continue going? Can they increase their runners in scoring position? Obviously, the Hoover Met is a big ballpark, and it gives you the opportunity to have some success and get it up the alleys. And I think that's what this Arkansas team is, more than a home run hitting team. It's a gapper, a doubles team that can score runs that way.
Yeah, and you look at SEC baseball, 12 of the 14 teams make Hoover. You look at those top 4, Tennessee, Kentucky, A&M, Arkansas, and Florida coming into the season was one of the best teams on paper. It's a crowded field. Vince, you're back with us right now. Tennessee, Tony Vitello. Let's talk about Tony Ball. They got a couple of years ago, they really got under a lot of people's skin. I thought it was funny. I mean, just because they're just having fun, making it what it is. I think Dudley was familiar with Tony Vitello from his days at Arkansas. Hell, I remember on a Sunday, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, when Tony Vitello took the job at Tennessee and left Arkansas. But damn, look at the interest he's created for Tennessee baseball. Has there ever been a coach that's gotten people this jacked up about Big Orange baseball?
No, there's never been. I mean, there was a lot of success with Rod Delmonico. There's no doubt about that. But it's a different world right now. And when you're setting records in attendance, you're having expansion to your baseball stadium. They did phase 1 of it, and phase 2 with full completion is scheduled to happen before the 2025 season. So it's never been hotter. For them to have this kind of consistency in the elite conference in college baseball just has not happened. Tennessee's 83-37 in SEC games in the last 4 years under Tony Vitello against the best teams, and so unprecedented, the consistency. People are going to want to see, them cash in at some point, but definitely it's electric right now, the interest level in it. I'm not saying it's football or anything like that, but that's what a lot of people talk about. There's no doubt about it. So it's pretty special what we're seeing right now. And that the personalities from a couple of years ago, really not the case on this year's team, wasn't the case on last year's team. So it just, thankfully, that's not been much of a narrative this year. There's not hey, we want to beat Tennessee because of the way they act. It's really not much of that this year. There's the Tennessee and Arkansas fan base, as Dudley is well aware of, that they like to gig at each other. But even Tony told us in the post game the other day, he's like, in the past I didn't always handle some things the best, and he hopes to be able to take a picture with Dave Van Horn of each of them holding up their division championships at some point. So he respects Dave Van Horn.
You know what, Dudley? Just doing my gazendas here, 83-37 against SEC competition the last 4 years. That's 69.7%. Can we round it off like grades in college? Just make that a 70 and give him a C. But 70% winning percentage. And the relationship Dave Van Horn and Tony Vitello have. Dave Van Horn wouldn't have kept him on his staff a long time if he wasn't, a really good coach. But I don't know. I just like what Tony Vitello does. Some of the stuff, throwing bats and whatever, you can say whatever you want. But he creates interest, and he puts out a great product like Dave Van Horn does. But Dave Van Horn is a little bit more subdued, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, a little older. I think along the lines, and there's, I think I've mentioned this before, there's a lot of people in the Arkansas fan base who don't like that I love Tony.
Yeah.
I loved him when he was here. I think he's a cool guy. I think he's good for the game. Arkansas fans don't want to hear that when their manager and and him, get at odds sometimes, but there's great respect between the two. They both have great programs. They both go into every season with a goal now being to get to Omaha. If you don't get there, then man, winning the SEC East and SEC West is something you should be proud of, but it's just not the end goal for both those teams. And I think that says a lot about those two programs, and obviously all the other ones in the SEC who have won national titles, who have put themselves in position to do it again. There's a couple teams this year, obviously, that didn't get to where they wanted to go, and that's gonna upset the fan base. But that's what you want. You don't want the apathy that used to be alive in a lot of different programs and a lot of different sports. There's very few fans and fan bases right now who are happy with everything.
No, I agree with that. I'm gonna throw this one at you back and forth. We got about 8 minutes to go. Vince, biggest story happening on the Hill in Knoxville that most people aren't aware of that you are?
What are you talking about? Tennessee baseball? We're talking about anything.
Football, basketball, whatever.
Well,
rowing.
And there's a lot of success in postseason and all those. By the way, Tennessee in the Big 12 in rowing, but I think that's going to change with expansion and stuff. But
yeah,
I'd say the biggest interest piece right now, football always dominates, but the individual thing that maybe the most people are asking about is Chaz Lanier for the transfer portal, the combo guard from North Florida, who was in Knoxville yesterday and I guess the night before after visiting Kentucky. That's probably what most people are kind of checking out and monitoring. You visited BYU on Sunday. If they get him, it is a transfer portal win in the trade out in what left them, which obviously includes Jonas Adu going to Arkansas, or landing in Arkansas, versus what they've brought in. Man, I think that would be a positive trade out. And then the excitement level for this Tennessee basketball team would go to another level. Chaz Lanier hasn't really done interviews or anything, so I don't have info that maybe the rest of the audience doesn't. However, I know what he can do and how perfectly he would blend with what they need and what they've already brought in. So that's probably the one little news item that the most people are tracking. And obviously Tennessee baseball and everything that has Tennessee football on the list, whether it's James Pierce Jr., number one in college football players on 3, or where they have him in rankings. People are always paying attention to that. But it's probably Chaz Lanier for Tennessee.
Nico Iamaleava.
Beautiful.
See, there we go.
Got it down.
Yeah. All right. Dudley, biggest stories going on up on the northwest corner in Fayetteville, University of Arkansas, that you are aware of, that are developing across the sports line that the rest of the world doesn't know but needs to know about and can follow you in hogville.net.
Yeah, I think that the one of the biggest things I would say is, I've given Arkansas a lot of grief for not being on time with the NIL, or not putting enough resources, just not handling the onslaught when it came. And I think that, I've made plenty of comments about how it's a situation where they have always been catching up. After doing some interviews, after, kind of getting in a little behind the scenes, I've kind of changed my mind on that. At least I believe they have the right people in place right now. I think they're headed about it the right way. Again, I'm not going to, go back on my word. I thought that they, started behind in the track race and didn't catch up for a long time. And finally, they know where the finish line's at. So they're coming around, the turn and all that, finally getting that going. But I would say that's the biggest thing. Your football team has to get better. It has to, be the cash cow. It doesn't matter how good you are in all the other sports. Football puts more butts in the seats, more money in the coffers, and it allows the other, I wouldn't say all other 18 sports, but it allows most of those other sports to, flourish and have the opportunity and resources to compete at a high level, both in the SEC and nationally as well. And I think we've seen that up here. But I will say that I think that the fans probably should, like me, realize now that just because they got a late start and just because I think it was accurate that they were running behind, I do think that they've got the right people in the right mindset now to understand this is professional sports now. It's not college sports.
Yeah. All right. Real quick, in the last few minutes, just give me a minute or so. This Jaden Rashada deal, Florida to Arizona State, now at Georgia, $13 million. Just remember, Cam Newton was the number one pick in the draft April of 2011. 4 years, $22 million. I just don't think he was ever offered $13 million. Maybe he was, but where do you think this thing goes, Vince? And what does this mean to the rest of college football, this lawsuit, that alleged lawsuit?
Well, it's another of the external moving parts to go with everything else. It's kind of like, one of those bands, you got a hurricane and you got the eye of the storm, and you got these outer bands that keep developing and changing to go along with it and circling. So to me, if he was a starting quarterback, we wouldn't see this lawsuit. Like, this tells me that that this is, hey, I'm now in a backup type of situation with nothing guaranteed. Now's the time, because I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to cash in more than that, or at least it seems like maybe he's gotten that kind of advice. If you're going to be elite, then you're going to get your money, and it'll play out for you, even if it's the unconventional route. So to me, it seems like more of a personal thing rather than opening up Pandora's box for everybody else to jump in with lawsuits.
Yeah.
And I want to preface my comments by saying I've never met the young man. I've never done an interview, never been around any of his people. I've, judged this from afar. And what I see is something I'm not surprised at all. Because of what I just mentioned, and it being professional sports and money being involved and what used to be under the table, now over the table, a lot more hearing about it.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all. I do believe that Vince is right. If the young man was going to be the starting quarterback at Georgia next year, or he had been the starting quarterback at Arizona State, and where was it before then? Florida, Miami. I think this is a money grab's not the word I want to use. It's the one that came to mind first, but it's not the one I want to use. I think he's trying to put together a business deal, not based on previous accomplishments, but on what might happen. And you're the money man. You got to spend money to make money. You can't ask for money up front and then it work out for you.
Yeah. Well,
you get great advice, and I'm not sure that's the case here. And again, I wanted to preface by saying I've never met him. I just am viewing this from afar. Am I surprised? No.
Yeah. Well, let me just say this to everybody watching. This is what True Grit journalism is all about. I have so much respect for Vince Ferrara, the sports animal in Knoxville, Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, because of the way you said restrained. No, it's just careful, because you're going, I don't know him. Based on the facts, this is what it is. Folks, if you're a journalism student or you want to be, listen to what these guys just said. Great show, everybody. We got to check out. We got an early out today. We'll do it again next week. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. We'll see y'all tomorrow morning. God bless you. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Don't ever forget that. Make great things happen. See you tomorrow. We're out of here.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal, and the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.